Namaste. Today I have a wonderful guest from Nepal, Tejendra. Tejendra, namaste to you.
Namaste, Rajivji.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in touch with me, and then we get started with important issues on India, Nepal, China issues.
Thank you, Rajivji. I'm Tejendra Ji, based in Kathmandu. I'm working in water resource sector for more than a decade. Because of water resource, my background on the water resources, obviously India, Nepal, and China gets connected. And also I have some background on political science. These all factors pulled me into keep a close eye on China, Nepal, and India triangle.
What I'm going to do is go through a series of topics in sequence. So first I'm going to ask Tejendra Ji to tell us about the Hindu monarchy in Nepal and why it fell, why that one Hindu kingdom in the world is no longer a Hindu kingdom, became a Maoist kingdom, what happened, what could have India done, why it didn't do it. So that's the first topic, and then I'm just going through all the flow, and then I'll talk about during the recent Modi government, how do Nepalis see whether Modi's helped them, not helped them, what is the relationship like? I think it's an important point to know. Then I will talk about US has initiated something called the Indo-Pacific Strategy, and Nepal is part of that. And they have a program for Nepal where they've given a lot of money, I think $500 million for development and so forth, and ask him a little bit about that. And this is to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, which is going through Pakistan already, and they want to take over Nepal also and do all kind of infrastructure. In the name of infrastructure, they want to get in. So with that, once we have that background, then we talk about, Gurkhas and what are the possibilities, what might China be doing, what India should know about. So this way we will get the topic going. The Hindu kingdom. The Hindus are very proud that we have one kingdom in the world, which is Hindu kingdom. So, but that is no longer the case. What happened?
Okay, we have to go back to the Maoist insurgency and the West agenda regarding toppling the only monarchy, only Hindu kingdom of the Nepal. So I would like to quote something that British ambassador Andrew Sparks in December 2014, he wrote an op-ed in a local newspapers, and I would like to quote only two things. He wrote that we hope that the Constitution will enshrine equality for all without discrimination based on gender, sexual orientation, caste, ethnicity, religion, or language, with a particular focus on ensuring enjoyment of the rights by the most marginalized in society, such as Dalits. And the second thing I would like to quote here is that he wrote, we encourage you to ensure that the right to change religion is protected. The Western world was so much interested to topple the monarchy simply because they thought that it was the enemy, it was the only enemy to establish their Christian agenda here in Nepal. Therefore, they have invested so much in the name of insurgency, human rights, and so forth. The Maoist insurgency that was started in 1996. 1996 was at full focus on destroying the Hindu deities, Hindu religions, Sanskrit educations. They used to torture the Brahmins, Khetris. There were a 12-point agreement, a famous 12-point agreement that happened in New Delhi in 2005. 2005, Maoist and the seven political parties, they struck a deal. It contains 12 points, and there was a point, specifically regarding the monarchy. This agreement said that it wanted to end the autocratic monarchy, not the abolition of the monarchy from the kingdom. Later on, with so much doing by the Indian then ambassador Sam Saran, who took the initiative to convince West and America, they work together. They work together and with a restored parliament. They through a declaration they ended the monarchy and all and everything. So one has this. I mean to say is that the whole process of evolution of the monarchy was not valid. It was not the people's vote. Also, what I would like to stress upon is that the main party, the kingdom was the monarchy was one of the most important part of the whole process, but it was kept aside, and the Maoists and the 7 political parties they struck the deal, and monarchy was kept out of the whole process. This is why this is not the wish of the people, and it was all imposed, and they used their muscles and money to do all this happen.
So what Tejendra has said is that the agenda, which was openly declared by the British ambassador at that time, very clearly the agenda has been that in the name of human rights, they always talk about human rights. They want equality and fairness, and they want to support Dalits and freedom of religion and all that. So the words sound like very nice, liberal, kind of a discussion. But basically, it is an anti-Hindu. It is basically to bring conversion. They want to convert. They want to help the Christians, Christian missionaries who are very active in Nepal. And so this is the first point you have to understand. Second point you have to understand is that the Hindu monarchy comes in the way. The Hindu monarchy is the one thing they have to get rid of. Exactly like getting rid of Rajas in India, or getting, putting them aside, putting them on an elephant and saying, we give you gun salute, but, we run the show. That kind of a thing they wanted. So the foolish thing is, this is during Manmohan Singh's time when this meeting was held in Delhi, this resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So in Manmohan Singh's time, which means really for all practical purposes, Sonia Gandhi's time, there is a meeting in Delhi where a resolution, 12-point resolution is passed, where Maoists are brought along with 7 political parties of Nepal in Delhi to pass this resolution that they're going to get rid of the monarchy, and it's an abusive monarchy, and they really slander the monarchy in that resolution. And the point that Tejendra is making is that the monarchy was not a party to the discussion. I mean, normally you would bring that, okay, if you want to have a negotiated settlement, like in many parts of the world, where, monarchy has, their status has been reduced. They've not been abolished. Like in England, like in some of the Scandinavian countries, like in Bhutan, many parts of the world. You don't abolish the monarchy, you just reduce their clout and bring in a democratically elected, more parliamentary powers. So rather than doing a negotiated settlement with respect to the monarchy, they basically did not even include the monarchy in this discussion, and they abused it. And so this is a very big insult to the Hindu Dharma and to the monarchy. So I want to add this, Tejendra. My experience has been that when Christians come, they often align with the Maoists to do the dirty work. The Maoists the Maoists go around beating up people and doing all this dirty work. And the Maoists think that this is why the leftists are very stupid. The leftists think that they're going to create a kind of a communist state. But actually what they are doing is they are dismantling the Hindu establishment and making way for Islamic and Christian groups to come in and take over. So the Christian groups use the Maoists to do all this work. This Maoist revolution was something that served their purpose, because it's like your enemy's enemy is your friend. So if your enemy is the Hindu king, his enemy are the Maoists, they are your friend, they can help. One enemy versus the other enemy. So let's kill one enemy at a time. So we'll use enemy number 2 to kill enemy number 1, and then one guy is gone. So this is how they use Maoists to get rid of the Hindu kingdom. And so I've written Breaking India. Tejendra is telling us about Breaking Nepal. This is what is going on. So then, next question is, Tejendra. When Modi comes, and he comes with this Hindu agenda, they say. So what has happened in the Modi time, as far as Nepal goes?
Yeah, Modi, when the constitution is to be promulgated, Modi sent his special envoy, Mr. Jaishankar. He was the foreign secretary then. He came here, and I guess there were some 9-10 points of disagreement of India on the particular constitution. He came here, but nothing could happen. I would like to tell you one thing is that why that happened is before Modi time, the West used Indian Congress, and left. They were the partners, in some form, and they are managing Nepal through Delhi. When Modi came in power, Modi failed to establish a reliable partners here in Nepal. And when he tried something, when he sent his envoy here in Kathmandu, media did the damage. The media writing this, that, and so many rubbish things, so that Modi goes into defensive positions and he could do nothing. I would say he is now, in case of Nepal, is rolelessness. He has no role. He is in defensive position. The power of the left liberal media, basically the mainstream media around the globe is like that. So it is playing its part, and there is so much red herring. It's so evident that there are so many issues coming here and there, and so that the people get confused. They are managing the mind of people through media. Also, the majority of the people could not get this. And when Nepal promulgated the constitution, India, there was a blockade by India. The inside, some people say that the blockade was not because of Modi. At that time there used to be many, there I guess 25,000 people. They are marching. They are demanding. They are exhibiting julus, demanding the Hindu kingdom and something like this. And this was not liked by the Western forces and the Indian liberal and left factions. They didn't like this, and basically that all resulted into the blockade, and that made Modi so unpopular in Nepal. Still, Modi is so unpopular. Whatever he does, people does not go in the essence of the things. They take it very negatively, and as I already said, the position of India as far as restoring or anything regarding Hindu kingdom, his role-less.
Okay, so let me summarize because I've had other offline discussions with Tejendra also. The previous government, the Congress government, had their allies and links in Nepal, political and media. So it was commonly known that Nepal is managed from Delhi, because meaning that they are the boss, and Congress in Delhi is the boss, and they have their ally, their branch office, Congress in Nepal. And so the Delhi Congress and the Nepal Congress, they're sort of aligned, and Delhi is calling the shots, the big brother, so to speak. So but BJP had no such affiliate. The BJP didn't have any affiliate. So when Congress left Delhi, lost in Delhi, and BJP took over, and the Jaishankar was sent, to do all this, to work on India's behalf in Nepal. But there was no alliance possible because there's nobody in Nepal, no political force in Nepal that we could link with at that time that had any power. Maybe some small force, but not something important. So the BJP didn't build a Nepal version of their BJP. They didn't build a Nepal Hindu Congress or something like that. They didn't create that from the ground up. You need to create that. I mean, you need to do what shakhas, you need to have shakhas. You need to create a whole ecosystem from the ground up at the village level. So that wasn't done, and you cannot just send Jaishankar and cut some deals that will be favorable to you because there is no grassroots support. So what Tejendra is saying is that this didn't work. The BJP attempt, the Modi attempt to have its connection with Nepal didn't work. So he keeps using it, even in his notes that he mailed to me, he keeps using the word role-less, no role, means no role. So Modi is role-less. Modi has no role. He has no standing. He's not anywhere in the Nepal discourse, political discourse, power structure. He's non-existent. There's a total Modi vacuum in Nepal. So added to this is another dimension, which is that there was also an economic blockade that India had on Nepal. Why did that happen? Tell us, because that bothered me. That always bothered me. Why, if Nepal is in turmoil and you want them as your friend and ally, they've been for thousands of years,
Why would you have an economic blockade? What was the story behind that? It seemed that Modi didn't have the full control over his bureaucracy, over his intelligentsia and other things. This is why the blockade went for so long. This was a blockade from India's side. Yes. And so what you are saying is that even when Modi's in power, he did not. It was some IAS guys and bureaucrats doing all this blockade. And you are saying that Modi and Jaishankar did not have enough control or did not want to have enough control over Indian government's own actions. Yes, I am saying this because one of the insider shared the information with me that Prime Minister Oli, he invited a group of experts, and suddenly he got our foreign minister was in India. He was negotiating through Sushma Swaraj, and almost 1.5 hours, our prime minister had telephonic conversation with our foreign minister based in. He was at that time in Delhi, and after the phone call, our prime minister was in a jolly mood. The blockade is going to end very soon, but that did not happen. And many times our politicians, our bureaucrats tried, but that did not happen. But ultimately our military came into the scene through its own channel. It contacted the Indian army, and then this military diplomacy worked, and the blockade was opened. So this is very interesting for the viewers. So Modi comes in power. Jaishankar is sent but fails in Nepal because we don't have a supporting ally there with political clout. But meanwhile, an economic blockade against Nepal starts. And India is sort of being a tough muscle, putting tough muscle power, thinking that they'll fix Nepal with some, they'll set them right. Because some of the social media discussions at that time, I remember, and some of the media discussions were, oh, they deserve it and all that. It's like we show them, teach them a lesson, but look what it turned out. So even when the foreign minister having a nice, happy, friendly conversation with Sushma Swaraj in Delhi, even then, after nice conversation also with good assurances, the blockade could not get lifted. So there was a double talk from India. The foreign minister saying nice things, and the actual reality on the ground is the blockade continues. So then what he's saying is that the Nepal army had to work with their friends in the Indian army and use army to army diplomacy to get the blockade lifted. So this is mystery still. I haven't figured out who in India did all this and whether they're being held accountable. There should be some kind of an inquiry why the heck they did all this, to a country like Nepal. Rather than going the opposite, instead of a blockade, they should have said Nepal is vulnerable, we ought to be helping them. They have just got rid of their monarchy. They put in a constitution. Maoists are in power, missionaries are in power, they are in flux, they're up for grabs, power is up for grabs. There's going to be a power vacuum and confusion, and we ought to be present. We ought to be actually giving them help. We ought to show that we are really good guys. We are going to send all kinds of help to them. Rather than doing that, they put economic blockade. So did the economic blockade create an opportunity for China? The very small school-going children, kindergarten children are also knows that the fact that Modi did wrong to us. The kids are not going to forget this very, very easily. Before when Modi got elected, he came here and he gave the very nice speech in our parliament, and he was well appreciated. He was well appreciated, and people were standing on the street and cheering him. But when that blockade happened, still people are not okay. They are not going to accept Modi until and unless he does something good to Nepal. There are so many things, so many issues, outstanding issues, and it is said that there are so many micromanagement by India. India does, if anything wrong happens here in Nepal, it is because of India. So obviously, China is going to get benefited from this as well. This is like an open secret. But what Chinese generally do is that they do silently. People does not know. If anything comes against China in media, I guess some time ago, some months ago, there was a cartoon. There was a cartoon depicting Mao, the great leader Mao, and Chinese embassy here in Nepal. They objected. They wrote a letter to the media house, and finally I don't know whether the editor-in-chief got dismissed or he resigned. I don't know, but he left the job. So the situation is very different here in Nepal after the blockade as well.
What you're saying is the blockade completely ruined the reputation of Modi, and so Indian Congress is out. They had their connections, and BJP is in, but they ruined their reputation because of the blockade. And what you're saying is even every child knows that Modi is the bad guy, and the whole Indian government is considered bad guy. And whenever something negative happens, they blame it on India. And meanwhile, China is being protected by the public opinion, the public media opinion, and the public opinion of China is getting very strong. And in fact, if there is a cartoon or some little thing against China, the editor has to leave. Whether he resigned or kicked out doesn't matter. But the point is, it sends the message that nobody in the media better do this, because if you do it, look what happened to that other guy. He's out now. So the Chinese are very strong. So now, before we come to China, USA has the Indo-Pacific Strategy, IPS. Under the Indo-Pacific Strategy, they've given Nepal is also part of this, and they've given Nepal $500 million to aid, and for infrastructure development and so on. And this is to counter the Chinese. Chinese have this Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, which has got billions, tens of billions of dollars investment in Pakistan. They've got tens of billions of dollars invested there to have access through Pakistan, and they've almost like they've rented Pakistan. Pakistan is for rent. Pakistan has rented their country to China, and through Myanmar, and they're rented from ports in Sri Lanka and Maldives and all these places. They're trying, So now Nepal is part of the Chinese BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, and US wants to counter it with this initiative of the Indo-Pacific Strategy. So I want you to tell us the US strategy is public and open. It's a well-known thing, this whole thing that has happened with the Indo-Pacific Strategy and the Nepal part of it. What is China doing? What is China up to? They have Confucian institutes. I'm told that Mandarin language has become very popular. They're teaching it, they're funding training, and the idea of Chinese greatness and history and good public relations. The Chinese ambassador, the lady there, I'm told she's very smart and she's very connected and she's all over the place. And they're funding these NGOs a lot. So tell us a little bit about China's intrusions into Nepal, that as you see it.
Main thing is that the public's good wish, good faith in China. People basically do not buy. If anything wrong about China it comes in their mind, or it's public comes in public sphere, they are not ready to buy. There are last few months ago, there was a report that China has encroached Nepali border in more than 7-8 times. The reporter who reported this, he was suspended. He was suspended, and I guess a couple of days ago he died mysteriously. And he was so swept away by a river. Plus, there are so many Chinese projects as well in Nepal. They are in river sector, they are in hydro sector, they are in road construction sector. They are in so many sectors.
As far as the public is concerned, the reputation, the brand value of India has come down dramatically from what it used to be when it was a Hindu kingdom, and the brand value of China has gone up. So now if you criticize China, you're going to be in trouble. Nobody will believe you. China is seen as sort of a good guy. They're helping us. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
In the Mahabharata, the way you treat somebody, Sam, Dan, Bhed, Dand. Okay,
yeah.
Four stages. And I think China is in stage 3. So Sam is, we have a friend. We are your friend. We have friendship. Dan is we are charity. We help you. We're creating jobs, we are building infrastructure. Look, we are great guys. So the Sam is there. The Dan is there. That I think world opinion accepts. India also accepts that China has got a lot of Sam and Dan in Nepal. And they have won over the hearts of Nepali people. Now, the question is the third stage, Bhed. Bhed is you encourage people to fight on your ideology against other people's ideology. You create one versus the other. You are into political and discourse intervention. So this is where I want to discuss next. So the information I have, which many Nepali people don't want to listen to, and people in Delhi don't want to listen to, but information I have is that the next target, the next big frontier for China is Gurkhas. Because Gurkhas are very solid military fighters and they are good mountain people. Mountain fighting is something that the Chinese army cannot do very well. It is the advantage that India has, not only because they have Gurkhas, but India also have Indo-Tibetan force. So to counter this, they want to understand and they want to figure out how to get the Gurkhas on their side also. Maybe they will not get all of them, but even if they got a small percentage of them, it will make a big difference. So the idea of funding Gurkha youth training camps, Gurkha youth empowerment camps, with the idea of getting to know them better, create a few Gurkha leaders who will be on their side. Like in India, the British did that. They've created some Indian leaders, Hindu leaders, who worked for the British East India Company, and their job was to go and win over other Indians. So Nepal hasn't been colonized in the same way as India. So Nepali people don't have that same sense of history. How the colonizer is very cunning. How the colonizer comes with Sam and then Dan and then he goes into Bhed. And then when he's powerful, then comes the Dand, the attack, So China is going about it, learning from the history of other colonizers in South Asia. So when I mentioned that China, I have heard from people who are involved in all this, that China's goal is to create a certain amount of military people from Gurkhas who will be on their side. Now, people in Nepal have made fun of it, saying, "Oh, for Indians, you don't understand. The China, PLA, People Liberation Army of China, is very elitist. They'll never have foreigners in it." But they don't need to hire them into the PLA. They can create a separate Nepal militia. They can create, like the British called it the Indian Army. The British Army in India was not called British Army. It was called Indian Army. So this business of, they're not going to hire Gurkhas into the PLA. They're going to create some kind of a militia. They might even call it Nepal Defense Force, Nepal Border Patrol. They might call it Nepal Youth for, Nepali Kingdom, whatever, however they call it. It might even be a group of NGOs. And it could be done in a way that the average Nepali doesn't know what has happened. They won't know that so many thousands of our youth are actually indirectly working for the Chinese. But so the mechanism is something that will not be transparent. So this business, they don't, our people will not work for China, doesn't make any sense to me, because it will not be so straightforward. They're not going to, some stupid people ask me, show me an ad by the Chinese army to hire people. As if they'll put an ad saying, okay, we are trying to do this. It is not so stupid. People are not so stupid. I want your opinion, but before that, I will say, some people said, I'm just responding to all the criticisms people gave me when I mentioned this kind of a thing. Some people even said that the Gurkhas are so loyal to India, they will never do anything. But let's remember the history. I think it was around 200 years ago, around 1815 or somewhere thereabouts, that the British East India Company started hiring Gurkhas into the British Army. The British. And the Gurkhas were among the most loyal to the British, and they were used all over the British Empire. In fact, the famous Jalyawala Bagh massacre, the Jalyawala Bagh massacre in Amritsar, when General Dyer ordered firing against unarmed civilian crowd. The people who fired were Gurkhas. Did you know that? There were two groups. One was Baluchi, one was Gurkhas. Under General Dia's command, firing at the crowd, the Indian crowd, unarmed crowd. So Gurkhas are known to be mercenaries. Mercenaries mean you hire me, you pay me, you look after me, you respect me, my family, my religion, leave me alone, don't, and you pay me enough, look after me enough, and I'll be loyal to you. So Gurkhas have been groomed for 200 years to be very loyal mercenaries. They have been mercenaries for the British, they're mercenaries for the Indians. Why wouldn't some of them be mercenaries for China? China has got such a good brand value, which we already talked about. China is very generous, they have a lot of money. China is very cunning, they don't do things openly, they do things very quietly. What an obvious thing for them to take a certain portion of the Gurkhas, not necessarily all Gurkhas will join. Some will keep working with India, some will keep working with China. So, if you look at the number, Gurkhas is just an example, but there are other communities also in Nepal that are very rugged and tough, and they would make good soldiers. So, it would be absolutely a logical thing for China's point of view, not necessarily to bring them into PLA, into their army, but to create some kind of militia, to interfere, to create jobs for youth, because youth consider working in some kind of military capacity to be a sign of macho power. I got this uniform, I'm this tough guy, my parents are proud of me, I'll tell my friends, they'll also join. So it's a young man's kind of a macho dream to work in some kind of a thing like that. So China is exploiting that kind of human psychology, and there's unemployment. There's a lot of unemployment in Nepal. Young boys need jobs. So it is a very natural, normal thing. But this is something that many Indian observers don't want to accept. They don't even want to evaluate it. And there's a pushback even to suggest that, hey, listen, guys, let's be careful, let's watch out, and let's investigate and do something about it.
Yes, you very rightly mentioned it, because I think China is doing something. And if again Nepalese government or something, some entity do some kind of agreement with China to create such things as you mentioned, militia or something like this, I think this would be a historic disaster, and I would say this would endanger our existence, and in a decade or so time, Nepal may or may not be in the old political map. This is what is going to happen if Nepalese side agrees with China to do the agreement of this kind, either militia or direct Gurkha recruitment center or something. This should be a disaster, and it should not be done at any cost. I'm not favoring America or China or anybody. I'm speaking at our interest, at our survival, and to protect our dharma, our security, our language. That's the basis for the nationalism. So I would like to further elaborate on this. Our government, there is within the ruling party, there are actions. Some are in favor of Millennium Challenge Corporation, which is American initiative, which is going to fund the roads and transmission line projects, which are very critical things. And this is another inspiration for America. America has to get the public opinion in their favor. And the thing is that the Westerns are investing only on software parts. We don't need reports, we don't need books, we need roads, we need bridges, we need hydropower projects. This is our need, but the Westerners and Americans are not doing that. I guess to normalize the public disregard or some frustrations, America is now starting to fund some such projects, some hardware kinds of projects, which is the start. And the Chinese are clearly aware of this fact that this is the start. America is not going to stop here. It will definitely in its second, third, or other phase, the level of funding will go up, And once the roads and the electricity sector, power sector is captured by America, then China can do nothing. And now, the ruling Communist Party, there was a pulling alliance before the parliamentary election to big Communist Party, the UML, UML and Maoists, they merged together and they are near 2/3 majority. Still, they are failing to deliver because of the fight between MCC and BRI, I mean China and America. A majority of communist parliamentary members, majority they want to go with BRI, and our prime minister. There is no replacement of our current prime minister because with the available leadership at all the parties, there is no better person than our prime minister. He was never in favor of. Before he gets into the prime minister post, he was never in favor of this secularism or federalism or like this. But when he gets into power, he may have been some compromise or something. We can understand this. But his health, second time he got his kidney transplant. His health is not so good. But still, he wants other communists. There are 4 prime ministers, as I mentioned you in my writing. There are 4 prime ministers within the ruling Communist Party. There is a huge internal power fight. Huge, and other 3 prime ministers at one side, and the sitting prime minister is another side. There is a huge fighting. The sitting prime minister wants the Maoist, then Maoist Supremo wants to leave the party, to split the party. But the Chinese ambassador is visiting here and there to all the leaders to stop the split of the party. If the Communist Party splits, the sitting prime minister will alliance with Nepali Congress and some other regional parties, and he will get the majority, and then the MCC will be passed through the parliament. This is what China wants to stop, and for that they are doing everything.
So there is India has out, therefore US is in. So it's China versus US for power structure. This is a very important point in itself, that there was a time when India controlled Nepal, and anything USA wanted to do, they'd have to go to India to get it done. Now India is withdrawn, can't help, can't do much. So it is depending on USA to keep control of Nepal so that China won't take over. And now India is the junior partner in Nepal. America is the senior partner as far as India is concerned. This is itself a disgrace that we cannot even deliver Nepal to the world community and say, hey, that's ours. You know, it's been ours. It's our friend. Now India is sort of working with the Indo-Pacific strategy of USA, saying, okay, you go there and you take over the fight with China and sort of thing. That's one point that he's making. Second point he's making is that the present government of Prime Minister Oli, and he's not in good health. And if something were to happen, there will be a disintegration and a lot of this jockeying for position, coalition governments forming, or coalition politics will go on. And then it is likely, if this government were to collapse, then there would be a new coalition government. It is likely that this American initiative called MCC, which is part of the Indo-Pacific Strategy, will pass, because the coalition partners will be not the same loyalty to China. There will be different kind of coalition partners. They'll have to bring in those coalition partners to get enough votes. Indians understand this coalition politics very well. So under coalition government in Nepal, there is a chance, there is a good likelihood that the US will push through its initiative, which China doesn't want. So now China, in order to prevent that from happening, is trying to keep the NCP, which is the Communist Party in Nepal, together. And they're trying to keep them in power. They want to keep Oli in power, and make sure that even if something happens to him, his government survives, because if he's their man. If he were to fall apart, then there is a likelihood a new coalition government will also allow the Americans to come in. Is that the thesis?
Yes. The sitting prime minister is for the MCC to pass through the parliament, and his other partners within his parties, they are against it. It is all for power purposes. These all things are not in the national interest.
So are you saying that the PM only would want the MCC to pass, but it is other people in the Communist Party with the votes who don't want it to pass? Is that I want to clarify that.
Yes, and one interesting thing, the opposition to the PM within his party, they have majority in secretariat, in Politburo, in Central Committee, and in the parliamentary parties. They have majority. They can remove the prime minister, but they are not doing, simply because the image, the issues with them are the Supremo has so many things. If he goes against, then our anti-corruption body, if there are cases, there are charges. If the files are open, his life is gone. And another ex-prime minister, his name is connected with some land scam cases. There are some cases, some corruption cases, and with the Supremo, the Maoist Supremo, then during insurgency period, he has so many cases. He could be brought into international criminal courts or something. There are so many cases. That's why these people are not daring to split the party, even though they have the majority in all the committees in the parliamentary parties as well. So the sitting prime minister had clean image with respect to all of these other his partners within his party. So
this is very familiar. It reminds me of Manmohan Singh, Mr. Clean, and the party want to keep him there because if he goes, then all the nonsense about the rest of the party will come out. And so whether they like him or not, he's Mr. Clean, he's their image, and he'll keep it going. So what you're saying is only is sort of like Manmohan Singh, and I'm just giving a rough analogy. His party, his fellow party members who have a majority, they're all radically pro-China. And if he goes, then they're taking over, then, they'll go pro-China. But he's kept because he's useful. He's useful because he's got a clean image. And the parties, all this corruption doesn't come out, which will happen if he were to go. So it's a delicate situation. It's a delicate Humpty Dumpty balance that can fall apart. And people in India understand that these things are very fragile. They don't last forever.
The mass of Nepali people, they are now feeling is that we did our government did mistake, our political parties did mistakes, and with almost 2/3 majority government could not deliver, and with this the level of frustration is increasing.
While the Hindu monarchy was deemed to be autocratic and backward and all that, this new very progressive, very great constitution, Maoist and all that was brought in place, secular and all that. And now the average person says that they've had 2/3 majority, these new people, and they've had it for a long time, well over a decade, and they have failed to deliver. So what you're saying is that people are frustrated with the current government's inability to deliver all kind of things they promised. And so there is a desire to go back to the monarchy. There is an opportunity to convince people that under the monarchy, progress can be made. You don't need to go from one extreme to the other. You can have a parliamentary democracy, but with the monarchy in place.
People are saying that this the pahle kai thik thi. It means the country was better before. This is a very popular saying, and there is about 700 plus 751 or something. There are this much local government. There are 7 provincial governments and 1 central government. With this huge administrative things. So this heavy government structure, Nepal cannot with this small economy, and it is all major portion is contributed by remittance and agriculture. This system Nepal cannot tolerate, Nepal cannot bear, and it is not feasible. Another thing is that the people are not happy with the secularism. Nepal is one of the fastest growing Christian community. It has been reports in the internet. You can find it out. So the rate of conversion is going up. One thing, and another thing, and it is very very critical to our security and to the security of the region as well, is that the Saudi fund, Qatar charity, and so things, they are investing huge in Nepal. They are choosing the southern plain, which is close to India. The Saudi fund and these other funds, they are funding there, and there have been some news that they have been picking the people there, those who are abandoned or something. They are street children. They are taking there, and they all are being taught. The number of madrassas are going on. So these things are very critical to our security, plus to the India as well.
Another new point that Jitendraji has raised is that the Saudis and Qatar people are funding a large amount of money in the southern part of Nepal, which is a border with India, where there is a Muslim population, with madrasas coming up, and they are looking after, they're giving Sam and Dan to the people who need help. To a lot of young people who need help, so they're coming and being very charitable and hugging them, loving them, giving them help and all that, and starting madrasas. So you're saying that this also should be a matter of concern. So what we are saying is, there is the vacuum left by the monarchy, Hindu monarchy, and the Indian mistakes of putting embargo on them, economic embargo on them, failing to help them out, create a vacuum. So three major world civilizations are competing. There is China, there is USA, and the Christians. The USA has this Indo-Pacific Strategy, and the Christians are converting like crazy. And now there is the Islamic funding coming from overseas. So you have the China, you have the West, and you have the Islam competing for Nepal. And so this is exactly the Breaking India scenario happening in Nepal. And the question is, where is India? There is Islamic terrorism already starting in Nepal, which is linked with the southern part of Nepal.
You know, there is one important recommendation in the EPG, is that it is about border regulation. The India-Nepal border has to be managed. It is essentially beneficial to both of the countries. There is so much which is open, and there is no security arrangement. So people came through these points, and you know, the COVID-19 pandemic situation is so serious now in Nepal. And in 2018 report of country report of terrorism published by U.S. Department of State, it mentions that the Nepal is being the big operative hub for Indian Mujahideen. This was the mention in the Indian part of the report 2018. And immediately, then our intelligence chief categorically refused that mentions in the report, and he requested our government to refute that idea, because in 2-3 years time there was no such any indication in the Nepal. So from the statement of our then ex intelligentsia chief and the mention in the report, one can assume that with such things established in their system, America wants to establish a military base in Nepal.
If you look at the Indo-Pacific Strategy of USA and this MCC initiative to counter China, and then you combine with two other things. One is the rise of Christian conversions, and all this in the name of human rights and freedom of religion and all that. And then the second thing is that they are now saying there is this counter-terrorism needed because there is Islamic terrorism possibility. And so what you're saying is all this is leading to the possibility of US wanting to establish a military base in Nepal, which would compromise the sovereignty of Nepal. And so you see, where I think things are headed is there'll be a Chinese decision or Chinese desire to do that through some indirect means. They will not call it Chinese military base, but they'll call it something else. They'll call it some, youth empowerment or some brigade, some defense brigade or something, but indirectly they'll pull the strings. And then there'll be something US like that. So this China versus US, Sam, Dan, and now going on to Bhagavad, kind of their loyal people. And that bhed, once it happens, it will create dund. It will also create warfare. This will be horrible for Nepal, is what you're saying.
Yes, yes. One thing I would like to make clear is that the madrasa or Muslim funding, Muslim countries funding Nepal is one thing, and the charges, I would say charges simply because our intelligence chief denied that. The American country report on terrorism 2018 mentioned that Nepal is being the one of the operative hub for Indian Mujahideen. This is the different thing.
You acknowledge that there's a lot of Saudi funding and Arab funding of madrasas and so on, and that is Sam and Dan. So that is Sam and Dan, charity, friendship, all that, and religious. But everywhere that is the first step towards Islamic radicalism, because what madrasas teach is the next generation. Now you have a son who's what, 9 years old? Your son? Okay.
Yes,
so that is the age at which they get the madrasa young boy to start indoctrinating him with ideas of the superiority of Islam, and the Islam has to take over the world. And so the Taliban are a product of madrasas. The Taliban is product of madrasa. It takes one generation, so you have to think a generation ahead. So the Chinese are thinking one generation ahead, and the Islamists are thinking a generation ahead. First step is just set up mosques and set up madrasas with a lot of money and give them Sham and Dan, and then the mullah in the madrasa is the one who is indoctrinating. And then in 5 years, 10 years, when this 9-year-old is now in his late teens, and now he's getting weapons training, and now it's a different game. So I think you cannot, even though the intelligence chief says that as of today there is no terrorism base in Nepal, the future possibility of that cannot be ruled out. So if the Indian Mujahideen, because they're on the run, on the defensive in India, because the Indian authorities are always after them, they're looking for safe havens. And Nepal, as you said, is an open border, so many kilometers long, the longest, huge amount of border, unguarded, and it's porous. And so, from their point of view, it's a great haven, and they have friendly mosques, madrasas just across the border on the southern part of Nepal. It's a perfect opportunity for them to go hide there and do whatever they want from that place. And then, so this could be very dangerous for India, and whether even if the Nepal intelligence says that such a thing is not there, firstly, Nepal intelligence might not know. Secondly, it might be just hiding in the form of madrasa and mosque. So maybe it is good to be vigilant.
Yeah, this is why I would like to emphasize that the border regulation is must. It has to be started very soon.
Yes, so the border should be protected, defended. They should put some fence or some, something protected all over, because this open border, with so many things happening in the Nepal side, this open border is a very big security threat for India also.
Another point that it is related to NRC, with open border and other bordering countries.
That is India's NRC.
Yes, in Indian NRC, it is supposed tentatively there would be a huge Muslim population to be stateless, and the Indian borders. When you look at China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Bhutan, I think the most fertile land would be Nepal to them.
The NRC in India might result in a lot of Muslims not having a legitimate status in India, and they'll need to go somewhere. And he says that the most fertile land for them to get into easily would be Nepal. And so he's fearing an influx of a lot of Muslims into Nepal as a result of India's NRC policy. Am I right?
Yes. And it would change the demography of Nepal, and in no time, Nepal would be the Muslim republic. Already there have been so many Rohingya people here in Nepal.
Not being an expert on Indian policy of the past, my concern was more about the present situation and the future. But I certainly wanted to give you the voice to express your views on what has gone wrong in the past and what needs to be done to fix it. because I'm sure there are people, qualified people in Delhi and various places who would like to take a look at it. And certainly what troubles me is that India's absence after the collapse of the monarchy during the Sonia Gandhi power structure in Delhi, the collapse of the Hindu monarchy in Nepal, bringing in Christian missionaries to convert, and with the help of Maoists, replacing that whole Hindu structure. And now there is a fight between China and US to take over power structure. And the Islamic group with the funding from overseas are also making their inroads. This is the breaking Nepal scenario that I don't like. And so people need to take a look at the broad context of what I'm talking about. And they have to stop saying, oh, we didn't see an ad for China to hire Gurkhas into PLA, therefore there is no problem, ha, ha, ha. I think that's radically stupid. Because firstly, Chinese do things quietly. Secondly, they don't have to hire them into PLA. They can create a separate militia. They can create a Nepal Defense Force or a Nepal Border Patrol. They can call it some youth. They can just call it something. They can create it like it's some grassroots organization of youth wanting to be Swayam Sevaks, Nepal Swayam Sevaks. They can call it whatever you want, but they can, as long as they're controlling the money, and as long as they're appointing the leaders, they're putting their ideology through, the point is their purpose is served. Okay, so rather than being very narrow-minded and unimaginative, which is some of my critics are, and taking a very narrow, fixed view, rigid view, and saying, oh, it can't happen. I mean, I'm asking you to be a little more imaginative, a little more creative. Chinese are very brilliant people. They're master strategists. So obviously they're thinking of all this. Yeah. So while the Chinese are thinking of making more and more entries beyond Sam and Dan, moving on to Bhed and Dand, the Islamic forces internationally are also doing that. They have come in with Sam and Dan, set up mosques in the southern area, set up madrassas, and the security, the intelligence people in Nepal are saying, okay, nothing wrong, they're not doing anything wrong. And then there is this issue of a lot of the Muslims from India taking refuge in Nepal. All these things can come together and blow up. Before you know it, you could have another Taliban type situation there. So Nepal is, to me, a big opportunity to win back as a great friend, and it will secure India's northern frontier. Nepal would be very strong on India's side. And at the same time, if we are careless like we have been in the last 15 years in India, then it could become a time bomb. It could become a nightmare. And Nepal, the worst case scenario is it could end up like another Tibet. It could end up like another Tibet. US military base is never permanent. I mean, what was their commitment in Afghanistan and Vietnam and this place, that place? It is like when it suits, it'll be there. Another US president may come change policy and say, okay, we're going to withdraw our troops. So, whereas for China, it is their border. China has a very large border. China, they cannot sort of say, okay, we ignored it, because for them it is their frontier. The next frontier after having taken over Tibet is Nepal. So it's Nepal and it's Ladakh and Kashmir and through POK, the Central Asia, it's the whole Himalayan region. And Chinese are master strategists thinking very long term. And I'm urging my viewers to please take the matter seriously. Please think about it out of the box. So with that, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you for your help.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here and also hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified. To donate, please click this button.